You are listening to the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management topics to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. Hello and welcome to show number 26. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is the Project Management Podcast for the 1st of April 2006. This weekend I have once again a couple of personal things I need to take care of, so this is just a short show for you. On the menu today we have some great listener feedback, a tip of the week, and a look at my diary. Let's get started. Today's episode of the Project Management Podcast is sponsored by Entaplicity Project Management Solutions. Project management is not just about the software. Whether you are a small operation or a large corporation, value-added project management must be based on flexible technology, solid processes, and strategic thinking. Learn more about Entaplicity's flexible, web-based technology, project management education, and strategic consulting. Visit www.weneedpm.com. Next, I have some reader feedback for you. Yes, reader feedback and not listener feedback. Following my show 2 weeks ago when I presented my 7 PMO trends, I did a quick write-up of those trends and I posted them in the PMO SIG mailing list. And 2 people wrote back to me. The first one is Aaron Hall. He's a PMP. He's the Director, Program Management Office of the Access Business Information Office at AOL Corporate and Business Systems. His title is almost longer than the feedback which he wrote. He writes, I like the trends. Thanks for the input, particularly the certification, the PMO versus portfolio management issues, and the management theory aspect. Good stuff. Glad to hear you liked it, Aaron. I also got a feedback from Derry Simmel. He is the Vice Chair membership of the PMO SIG itself, and he writes, I completely agree with your perspective that PMOs and PM really are going to become more management-oriented and management-like. Sometimes I think we are the only ones who actually think about the work rather than just trying to get it done. Thank you, Derry. Derry later in the same week also sent a message to the PMO SIG, and I'm going to put a link up because Derry, he is also managing a PMO himself, and he has now created a blog about PMOs. And he writes about this that I just wanted to share and hopefully get some feedback from any and all of you about my blog. I'm trying to put something together from the perspective of a PMO leader and talking about the PMO itself, organization, selling, etc. And his blog is at www.aboutpmos.blogspot.com. I'll put a link up on my website. I haven't had a chance yet to look at it, but I'm definitely going to do a review sometime down the road. All right, and next, end of reader feedback here. Next, I have a quick link for you to another blog. And this is the blog by Jack Dahlgren. And the item in his blog which caught my attention is titled, How to Cheat on the PMP Exam? With a question mark at the end. All right, let me read this to you. Okay, I know people out there are looking for free study materials and even bootleg copies of the PMBOK, but it is a bad sign for the profession when I get people coming to this particular site to find out how to cheat on the PMP exam. Whoever is out there is searching Google for, and then he puts in the Google search that he got out of his log file. So whoever is out there, you have lowered my respect for you by at least a notch or 2. Spend some of the energy you are currently using to game the exam to study a bit. It isn't that hard. Read the dumb guide to the PMBOK and take some notes. Study the terminology used. That should cover it. If you think that you need to cheat to pass it, you have already failed. I'm even more convinced now that the whole PMP certification is just a scam. And Jack posted this on March the 24th. What I really like about Jack and his blog is the fact that he is very critical about the PMP certification in general, and he's very vocal about that on various of his postings there. So if you want a different opinion, this is a good blog to read. And again, a link to his blog is on my blog. And now, on with the tip of the week. The project management tip of the week this week is don't use email. Well, this week a project team member of mine sent an email request to another department. The response he received was incredibly shallow. He didn't really get an answer to the question which he asked. He got very upset about this and he forwarded the message to me. He asked, "Was I not clear? Was I not precise? Do I have to draw them a picture?" I read his email and I realized that he had been clear, he had been precise, and this is clearly a case of a breakdown in communication at the end of the recipient. That's exactly the reason why I try not to use email whenever it's possible. I told him that, in my view, there was really no need for him to draw a picture. Instead, the need was for him to get up and walk 50 steps, that's all the distance there was, over to the other department and ask the question in person, or pick up the phone and give them a call. If you were to send someone over to my desk and you would monitor how I work, one of the observations that this person would make is that I keep getting up and walking around the building. I get up and I walk to someone's desk, I ask them a question, I talk for a few minutes, and then return to my desk. If they are not at their desk at the moment, I will go back until I catch them again and again. If the person, of course, is in another building or even in another town, I will give them a call again and again until I get them on the phone and I'm able to discuss the question or the issue that I have with them personally, rather than sending an email. To me, this has proven a very successful way, or strategy if you like, of being a project manager. I give people personal attention. I build a rapport with them. I show up at their desk. I address questions and with them personally. And I usually resolve issues that we have with one quick visit, rather than creating an email thread that is, like 20 emails long, 60 times indented, and 5 other people are on it as a CC without needing to be. An additional benefit is, of course, it keeps me fit because I walk around so much. Well, there you have it. The Project Management Podcast's tip of the week. Don't use email. As always, the background music for the Project Management Podcast's tip of the week comes to you courtesy of music.podshow.com. The band's name this week is called Might Could. They're from Maryland in the USA, and the song is called Machinery. And now, let's move on to my diary. Dear Diary, like on every project, things have been quite hectic since I last wrote to you. In that last entry, I told you how I had changed my personal attitude towards the project from being annoyed at the mess which the previous project manager left behind, grumble, grumble, to looking at it as a challenge. Today, I want to tell you about the joys of having a demanding customer and how my personal attitude has driven me to do other people's jobs for a while. Let's begin with my personal attitude and let me explain how I work. When I take over a project, I do so wholeheartedly. I accept complete responsibility for the project. You might say, I become the project. Say something negative about the project and you say something negative about me. I really get involved, I take complete ownership, and I really want to do anything possible to make the project succeed. This is shown probably best in a reference that I got a few years ago from a company in Germany, Swiss Life, and that customer, they wrote an email to me as a reference in which they said something along the lines that their project would not have been able to be completed on time if it hadn't been for my constant attention to the project and tackling upcoming issues immediately. I have always worked like that. I serve the customer and therefore I serve the project. While this personality trait of mine is good for the project, it's usually not so good for me. Being so involved in the project means that every time I see an issue, I will address this issue personally and take care of it. I know my limitations, of course, and I will only fix those issues that I know that I can do. For instance, I won't try and develop code for the project because I'm not a coder, but I will address any issue that I see and I know I can fix. Well, and that can, of course, lead to problems. So I began doing this on my current project as well. Unfortunately, we have about 500 users in our company and many of them have questions. And they began sending these questions to me and I got involved in answering their questions and solving their issues instead of managing the project. Well, luckily for me, I can see these signs, and it only took me about a week until, slap myself left and right across the face, realizing this. And I thought to myself, hey, wait a minute. This isn't my job. We have a help desk. People should be calling the help desk. The next day, I discussed the situation with our help desk manager, who agreed, yes, it's their job to handle these calls. This again shows you how messy this project was left to me from the previous project manager and how hectic it is because I hadn't had a chance yet to even address the question of user support. We agreed on a plan to train his tech support staff and to create a knowledge base, and I can now go back to being the project manager. So much on this issue. Now let's talk about the joy of having a customer and how much fun they can be. When this project was originally proposed to the customer, they agreed that they would use the off-the-shelf functionality of our software. We would build in a few minor changes for them and then they would start using it. Yeah, right. Nice plan. When I came on board, it was very quickly clear to me that our customer would not be able to use this software in their environment unless we included several major changes, actually. I worked with the customer to define these changes and also to prioritize them. We established and agreed on a release schedule. Well, feature A in January, feature B in February, etc. The plan was that we would roll out the software on March 17th in their whole company. On March 2nd, I get a call and we set up a meeting to discuss the workflow, which is one of the major functionalities. The customer told me that upon reflection, they realized that the workflow would not be acceptable in their corporate culture. They explained their thoughts to me and I had to agree. Yep. This isn't going to work for them. Now, my only question at that time was, why didn't you notice this in the past 4 months, when we had been discussing the workflow again and again? We had already redesigned it to fit their needs now, and 2 weeks before the major launch, I'm being told that this will not work. I held my breath and I counted to 10. I counted to 10 because internally I was also beating myself up. I had always had this queasy feeling in my stomach about this particular feature of the workflow. But since we had discussed it again and again, and since I got nods and approvals, I had really never asked the question, are you sure this will work for you? Finally, when I got to 10, I told them that the way I see it at the moment, a company-wide launch without the new feature, without rewriting the workflow for them, would be impossible. It would be disruptive, and it would cause a widespread negative feeling towards our project. They agreed. They also agreed that when I told them there is no way we'll be able to get this in before May, they said, yep, we understand. So now it's back to the drawing board for us, and we are redesigning not just the workflow, but a few other pretty major modules in the application as well to fit these new needs that came up 2 weeks before the launch. I guess we have to be pretty lucky in order to get this in by May. Once again, I have to think about my colleague's remark that I talked about in my last diary. She said, "Hey, didn't you want a challenge?" Yes, Pam, I wanted a challenge, but I also wanted a customer who knows what works for them without needing a babysitter and sounds the alarm bell a little sooner than 2 weeks before a major launch. Well then, here is what I have relearned this time, my dear diary. First of all, don't do other people's job. Delegate. You are the project manager, and you have people on your team and in your company whose duty is to do the work. You are the enabler. You are the coordinator. You are the leader. Don't get bogged down with the nitty-gritty. Delegate. Second, enjoy your customer. There is only one like them out there, and each one of your customers is truly different and has different needs for you to serve. And when you get sort of an uncomfortable feeling about one particular facet of the project in your stomach, raise your finger and say, "Hey, what about this?" Well, that's it for this time, my dear diary. Next time, you will hear more of what happened to me this morning. I was sitting at my desk, sipping some tea and thinking about what I am going to say here tonight, when, I'm not kidding you, the phone rang and another project manager called up. She told me that she had a family emergency that she needed to attend to, and that I had been selected to take over her project with the same customer that I'm already working with. And guess what? This project has just entered a critical development phase, and everything has to be finished by next Thursday. Lovely. That's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that you will be tuning in again next week when I'll be announcing some changes I am planning to make to the show. As always, you can find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. And when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. Until next time.